the Black Male Forum. Tonight, we're going to talk about Black male leadership, purpose-driven power. Let me say that again. Black male leadership, purpose-driven power. We want to speak about how our men lead as a father, CEO, brother, friend, in all the respective roles that our men show up, how they navigate the various challenges of leading while also in a community that has them bleeding. And so tonight, my name is Arlene Connolly Drummond, and I am the founder and CEO of IC Group. And IC stands for Igniting the Spirit to Excel in Excellence. And I see excellence sitting next to me right here. And I see excellence in the room as I look around at each and every one of you. And I know that there's an excellence in our community that is thriving, that is vibrant, that's energetic, that's creative. And we need to celebrate it a whole lot more than just February. So I'm excited to be here. Our company works with individuals, families, nonprofit organizations to help them realize their mission. We coach individuals to ensure that they realize their true potential and true purpose. I am the author of the book, Let Your Daddy Lift You Up, Healing Daddy Issues to Build Healthy Relationships. And so I am passionate for the past 30 years. When I look out into my community, I get it, it clicked, you hear me? I see what is happening, and I see the potential, and I see the possibilities. And so our goal is to help cultivate and bring that further into the limelight. So we're excited to be here in the house of Handy Inc., the home where so much of that potential is groomed. And right next to me is the CEO, none other than Mr. Kirk Brown.
Well, I'm supposed to follow that, so wish me luck. My name is Kirk Brown, and this is Handy. Welcome to a place that builds hope, that is willing to take no matter where we start and make sure we finish strong. For our young people in the house, I thank you for being here. I thank you for sitting through this. I thank you for allowing us to use your house. Handy was formed in 1985 by a guardian ad litem who decided that no matter what happens in a child's life, they should, one, first, be allowed to be a child, and second, be willing to be successful. And so in 2002, we went down a journey of creating case management structures and strategies to work with young people to make sure their future is not halted by what happens in their life, their families, or their communities. And we partner with some of the strongest families and some of the strongest young people that refuse to quit no matter what. And therefore, 78% of our young people complete their post-secondary journey. If you're a youth in the room that completed your post-secondary journey with Handy, please raise your hand. These are our alumni, and I want to thank you alumni for being here because they always come home, because this is home, because once Handy, always Handy.
Please welcome Mr. Aaron C. Weeks.
Good afternoon. As I was introduced, my name is Aaron Weeks. I am currently a manager with Miami-Dade County in the transportation department. I manage the budget and finance for the bus services division, and I have roughly $500 million worth of assets under my control on an annual basis. I am so happy to be here. I am a product not of Handy, but growing up in Jacksonville, growing up with organizations like Handy that helped nurture me and helped push me in the right direction and put me on a pathway for which I could achieve dreams that were beyond what my parents ever thought of. So I'm not sure how much you want us to go into, or that's good? All right, so I look forward to healthy discussion that we're going to have tonight, and I hope it inspires someone, or at least get someone to thinking of what they can do, not only to better themselves, but to better the community for which they live.
All right, and now let's welcome Mr. Bobby Henry.
Oh, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I really don't like using this microphone. I'm glad that the explanation of Handy was given, because I knew a little bit, but I didn't know enough to make me feel comfortable. And now that I know enough to make me feel comfortable, I can put this microphone down and stand up and introduce myself. You're live. You're live. I'm live. Yeah, you're live.
Let's follow Bobby.
Stop right here. Stop right here.
Stop right here. Yeah, you can go.
Look, man, I'm the publisher of the West Side Gazette. That's Broward County's oldest and largest black-owned newspaper. I'm not a racist, I'm a realist. I believe in telling the truth. So every now and then, if you see me look at my phone, I am not discounting you. I'm checking on some business. I wish I had the 5 million plus that this young man here was managing, but I don't. So when that phone rings, I have to look at it. It's an honor for me to be here, all right? I came up from something that, it wasn't no Handy, all right? It was the Boys and Girls Club. There was Mr. Hastings. There was a Levi Henry. So when we got out of line, they immediately put us back in line. Trevor, you know what I'm saying? Okay, very good. So I'm elated to be here. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I have to get up and move because I'm nervous. Now, I don't know how many of y'all get nervous before you speak, but you have to find a way to make that nervous energy fill the room. So that's what I'm doing, all right? Now, I am serious about what I do, and you can take that to the bank. I don't play with that. I do not lie to young folks because I don't want them to be under the wrong impression that this thing called life is easy, because it ain't. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to BS you, all right? I'm going to give it to you straight. If you want something different, I'm the wrong one to be here. But since I'm here, I got to do what I was told to do, all right? So good evening, and I'm going to give you what I got.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Henry. And now let's welcome Mr. Michelange Obel.
Well, I probably should let Mr. Henry go before I'm Michael Bell. I'm the CEO of Community Based Connection. On any given day, Community Based Connection serve over 500 families across Broward County. And I'll tell you this, that we always believe expanding the option to change the odds, to helping children and families to be socially and academically successful, despite the many challenges they face and regardless of the many negative influence around them. And so what does that mean? Meaning that 12 a.m. phone call when a child is out on the street, sleep in the car with their parents. They have a staff I can call, Craig Johnson, who's our program manager for Family Strengthening, and say, hey, go put this family in the hotel until we can figure out the next morning. And give them a secure shelter, give them food. What does that look like? Back in December, there was a young man who was murdered senselessly. And I called our clinical director, Mick Diamo. And at the end of the day, we go out with our other internal organization partners, Pastor Ron Harper, go door to door in the community and say, hey, we're here to provide therapeutic services for you all, both spiritually and from the academia standpoint. That's what we stand for. So when we talk about expanding the option that change the odds, I want to make sure that young man know that leaving this room tomorrow, he could be better than any one of us up here. Any one of us that's up here. Because guess what? Your last name means something. You know, I'm originally from Haiti, and my father will always say, son, you can dirty up anything, but you can't dirty up my last name. He said, because that's all you have. You know how you got Walmart, right? You got Bentley, you got Gucci, you got Versace. Those are last names. Well, Obel is my last name. And I'm not letting anyone dirty that up for me. Not even myself included. So being aware of yourself is also important. Who you are, the time where you are coming up. And so I'll leave you with this as we continue, that you can expand any option that stands before you. You just have to make the decision moving forward. Thank you.
And now please also welcome the illustrious Mr. Eugene Pettis.
Good evening. Eugene Pettis. It's been joy listening to my brothers do the introductions. And as I was reflecting on what I was going to say, I think it's important to know the roots from which we come. I was born and raised here in Fort Lauderdale. Went to Stranahan High School, a product of Sunland Park, Rogers Middle School that's no longer there. And I think I'm the embodiment. If somebody had stopped Gene Pettis in the 7th or 8th grade, it would have been, there's no hope for that young man. Fortunately, God had a different plan for my life. And I think he has a different plan for each and every one of your lives. It's determination, prayer from a praying mother, the commitment of never giving up. This is entering into year 38 for me as a practice of law. I've always been one that, despite my humble beginnings, I've always shot for the stars in anything that I do. My wife says I'm competitive about everything, and that's probably true, but I'm competitive on excellence. I'm competitive to make sure that not only am I doing what's necessary. When Brother Brown called me a week ago, I canceled a meeting that I had to be here, because I'm here because of people who I'm standing on their shoulders, who touched my life as a little kid growing up in the hood, 33311. If they didn't touch my life and take some time to instill and pour into who I am, then I wouldn't be who I am. So I think it's incumbent upon me, whenever the call, whenever I get an opportunity, because it could be a room of 500 of you. If I touch one, it makes my visit worthwhile, because you never know who that one person is that we can touch. So I'm a litigator. I do all sorts of litigation, medical malpractice litigation, wrongful death litigation, representing families. Brother Bell, we were laughing about a case that I handled. I represented the city of Fort Lauderdale for probably 20 years. I represent the sheriff's office for a long time. I've represented Starbucks, all those clients. But none of that should define who I am, because when I was president of the Florida Bar, which is the president over the entire state of Florida, we had almost 100,000 lawyers that I was leading. I brought to the attention of lawyers the creed of professionalism. And the second provision of the creed of professionalism is first do public good. It's not about money. It's about reaching back and helping lift some others. Do some public good. And I have committed to that. I try to instill it in everybody within my profession that I come into contact with, doing public good. Because if we do that and we're committed to it, we can create that next generation. We can create a generation that's going to be even better than we are, because the opportunities are even more today than they were 50 or 40 years ago. So I'm here to participate in what I hope to be a dynamic conversation that'll touch something inside of you, so that when you leave here, you leave with a confidence that no matter where you are today, you can get to where you want to go. Because all of us have faced some roadblocks. If we had enough time to go through it. We've all faced roadblocks, we've all faced doubters, but we didn't let that define us. And that's what we want you to leave here with, the confidence that you can accomplish and become whatever you put your mind to. and hopefully you'll go away with that spirit in your heart and your mind to accomplish same. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, you have a dynamic panel of black male leaders who don't just lead because they have a title, but our black men lead with heart, and they lead with a sense of consciousness and a commitment and a remembrance of not just who they are, but what the fabric of what created them and what helped them to be where they are today. And so one of the challenges that we know exists is that often our young people, our individuals, our community forget our narrative. And we buy into the narrative that so many people are telling us about who we are. Well, we want to correct that today, and we want to make sure that we keep everybody on notice when they're talking about who we are, that we are able to clearly speak for ourselves and define ourselves and stand up and represent ourselves. And the only way we can do that is if we are operating in right alignment. And so, yes, this is Black History Month, and it is the close of the month, but we are sparking a conversation that has so much breadth, because this is just the beginning of what we are looking to do when we talk about leadership. How do we ensure that we are insulating our community with a consciousness, with an action that shows the greatness of who we are? We will not allow our light to be dimmed, not on my watch, and I'm hoping not on your watch. And I'm definitely not on the watch of any of these gentlemen sitting here. And so you may be asking, how am I here? I'm here because I'm passionate about our community. And I'm passionate about families. And when I think about families and I think about community and I look out in our community, I'm concerned about where our men are. And I'm happy to see the sisters thriving, and we are doing great. But that's what we've always done. We are thrivers. We get it done. But we come alongside together in partnership. And what it looks like when we do it together, we are powerful. And so we want to work on some of that healing and restoration of what it looks like for leadership. So in this conversation, I want to just highlight, before I ask Mr. Kirk Brown to say a little bit about who he is and then pass the mic down in this question I'm going to ask all the gentlemen. Some of the challenges that are facing our black male leaders. We have racism and discrimination. It's facing all of us. It hasn't gone away. And I think in some days I'm looking and I'm like, is this 1950s? Is this 1940s? Are we back in slavery time? Because it's not the 60s, because if it was the 60s, we would be riled up and ready to go about the stuff that I see going on. So we have racism and discrimination that's real, live, and real. We have a lack of representation. When black male leaders are in their positions, are there enough other black male in their level who can help guide and support them in navigating the hallways and the different places that they have to go? So representation. Also, there's always in our community a lack of access to resources, right? And then, of course, we have societal pressures. Society places a lot of pressure on all our members of our community, but there's a particular pressure that has been placed on the backs, the necks, the shoulders, the arms, the legs, the feet of our black men. And this has been going on historically because there's an awareness about the power that our black men carry. And there's an intimidation from many who are concerned about that power. So in that vein of that statement, I want to ask each member of this panel, can you share with us the challenges that you have faced in your role on your sojourn to lead, transform, grow, and make an impact in your community? What have been those challenges, and what are some nuggets you can say about how you've overcame them? Mr. Brown.
So Kirk Brown, Ely High School graduate. So can you hear me in the house? Okay, great. So challenges. I think one of my greatest challenges, my first one was I had to come to the self-actualization that my own people are not used to being led by a black male. Miss Arlene told me to say that again. My own people were not acculturated or used to or assimilated to be led by a black male. And I remember if I wasn't thinking about self-actualization and my own growth, I would have been offended. But this was one of the first greatest challenges where I just sat there and I was like, what? Right, one of those moments. So that was one of my challenges. And I really congratulate the sister for bringing it to my attention. She was like, I've had several supervisors, but I've never had you. And I was like, how is that even possible? I've had several leaders, but I've never had a you. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, I'm a you. Right? And so that was, for me, one of my first great challenges. And I think my second greatest challenge was the imposter syndrome. It showed up. It showed up, and when it showed up, I was like, because I was sitting in a room of people, and I was like, whoa, you the street rat from Jamaica. You're the homeless kid. Look at the room you're in. How is it possible that you're here? And that was my second challenge. My third biggest challenge was the Jordan-like mentality of everyone around us. Because everyone, when you're placed in a leadership role, I would say 95% of the people expect Michael Jordan. They expect Tiger Woods. They expect the greatest. They don't expect an average leader, right? It's like you got this opportunity to lead. You better be the greatest that have ever done it in this position. And that was kind of like the expectation that I was hearing from other people. And if I didn't have a social work background and a therapy background, I would have sat there. My board member is right next to me, Aaron. I would have literally just fizzled out like, what? I can't have average days. What do you mean I can't have average days, right? And I want y'all to keep it real now. I'm looking down the line. I want y'all to keep it real. Don't let me feel like a unicorn up here. Like, you know, everybody expect that Michael Jordan moment. So I'm going to pass the mic.
So, as Mr. Pettis said earlier, there have been a lot of different challenges, and we would never get to another question if each of us just went through half of what those challenges were. But I would like to, with respect to the question, I'm going to answer it and phrase it a little bit differently and try to answer it from the standpoint of what were the things I think prepared me for those challenges and allowed me to get through them, and what kinds of things I learned from going through them. And I'm getting close to retirement age now, so I've had moments of reflection, just kind of thinking back on my life and, you know, how good was it? How good has it been? And was it what I thought it would be? And those kinds of things. And I grew up also a competitive person. I played sports. I was fairly successful at sports growing up. And but my parents always kept me focused on, number one, on making sure I had academics, and they thought that was number one. I'll be honest, early on, I didn't care about it. I'll be honest. I did well just because my parents expected me to. And to some degree, I think, you know, some of it was God-given, but, you know, my parents kept me at it to hone at it. And they instilled in me that nobody, no matter their color, was ever any better. So fast forward, I'm graduating from high school. I'm an all-city football player, 3-year letterman in football, basketball. Had scholarship offers to go different places. And through that process of what my parents wanted. I actually went to a military school. And at the military school, I wound up with meeting individuals that, not just because of what the military puts you through, but personally, for the first time, coming from where I came from, meeting people that just literally, wanted to tear you down. And I wound up having to really reach down inside of me and figure out, why am I here? What am I doing here? What does it take for me to be successful? I was successful on the football field there, but I was miserable. And what it came down to was, I remember my parents, telling me that you always want to create options in your life. You never want to be in a position frequently where you only have one option, to be successful. And I made a move that, for the first time, actually my parents disagreed with. I told them I was, quitting the team. I was leaving the school. My father didn't understand it, but didn't support it, but my mother did. She said, well, if you're going to do that, you need to have a game plan and where you're going to go. And so I called other schools that had offered me scholarships. I had some to say they would, but I was actually leaving the school in the middle of a semester. And so only one school stepped up. And that's how I wound up at Florida A&M University with my brother here. They said, listen, if you're committed to come here, and you're coming here for the right reasons. I spoke to Dean Mobley, and she gave me a long lecture. She said, it's not going to be, any easier here than where you were, academically, and you're going to have to dedicate yourself because, literally, this is a chance for you to redeem yourself. And that's what I chose to do. So that was one of the things I did. But what I got out of that was, I had put myself in a position where I had choices. There were people who had saw certain things in me, whether it was through sports or academics. I was, I think in the history of my high school, one of only about 10 people that our school has honor graduates, one of 10 people to graduate both as an academic honor student and as a sport honor student. And so I had options there. Fast forward, went to school, did well there in school, graduated, became the first person to go out of college into the executive management program with Citibank Citicorp in New York City. At that time, it was the largest financial institution in the world. And I thought I knew about competition. I had no idea what competition was. Every move in that program that you make, so many people, it's all calculated. Folks are looking, who's going to be on the next team that is rising up through the organization? Do I want to, meet with you after work? Do I want to spend my time, on you? How are you performing in the roles that you have within the bank? And people either gravitate to you or they gravitate away from you. So the politics there was something that I had never had been confronted with. I was able to, again, successfully complete the program, and then had another big, huge, life-changing moment where I'd gone through this bank program. I'm in international marketing, and a gentleman wanted to put me in human resources. Nothing wrong with human resources, but I told him I'd not gone to school and not gone through the program in order to do that. His thought was that I could be more valuable to the institution by helping to recruit more people that looked like me into the bank. Again, something which I enjoyed doing. I had done that during my 2-year period, but I didn't want to make that my career. So we came to a loggerhead, and I chose to actually leave the bank and go somewhere else. Again, very, very, very difficult decision. And then lastly, I'll I'll give a third thing, and that is when I came down and started working at another company called Kraft Foods, and working in finances. Again, it's not racism per se directly. People don't look at you and just, some do, but some won't. But it's not something that people have seen, a black person managing money. And so that was very pioneering. You're working with people and giving them counsel, giving them advice about how best to utilize what many for-profit companies see as the most valuable asset to the organization. It's money, and they're not comfortable. They haven't seen folks of my color. It's gotten better now, but as black males, we have to have that ability to be able to separate being very good at what you do and having to not just let your work speak for you, but also know how to make people comfortable that you're doing the best things for the organization. It's a very difficult task, but it can be done.
Okay. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna try this again. See if I can sit still here and try to do it like everybody else is doing it. One of the greatest challenges that I ever had was understanding who I was. That was one of my greatest challenges, was understanding who am I. Now, I quit school, high school, in 12th grade at Boyd Anderson High School. I quit school, went into the United States Army. I quit school because they told me that because of my extracurriculum activities, I used to beat people up, that I wasn't going to graduate on time with my class. But I was in the top 5% of my class. What does that mean? Well, when he told me that, being the respectable man that he was, I believed what he said, so I quit school, January the 10th, 1973, and I went into the United States Army. Now, while in the Army, I'm 17 years old. I already had a problem with authority because my mama died when I was 9, so I had a chip on my shoulder. Nobody could tell me anything. I knew everything. When I was invited to come to different things, I would fall asleep in there because I stayed up all night trying to do something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. But I did it. So anyway, in the Army, I was confronted with a lot of stuff. I had to take orders. I had to sleep around white people. Never been around them a day in my life, except for high school, but now I had to sleep with them. So I had to learn a whole new different way of life, understanding who I was. So after being in the Army for a little while, I got in trouble. I went into the stockade. I was locked up in the United States Army. And while in the stockade, there was a crime committed on the day that I got out of the stockade. So the first sergeant came to me and wanted to pin that crime on me. Unfortunately for me, the other soldiers around knew I didn't do it. So I was spared from going back into the stockade. So I said to myself, well, I'm 17 years old. I got my GED. I received my high school diploma before my class did at Boyd Anderson High School in 1973. So I began to think, I said, I wasn't too keen on following the instructions. So let me think about how I can get out of this man's army. So I had to go see a psychiatrist. And so in seeing the psychiatrist, a first sergeant, Sergeant Beasley, I'll never forget him in my life. Sergeant Beasley said, look here, Henry, I'm going to tell you something. You're a pretty smart young man. And if I was you, what I'll do is I'll go in here and answer a few questions like they want you to, and then see if you can get a general discharge under honorable conditions and come out of this man's army, because this place is no place for you. So I listened to him, and I did everything he told me to do. So after I was in for a length of time, I received all my benefits except I can't be buried as a veteran, all right? Everything else I get, but I can't be buried as a veteran. I said to myself, what the hell? When I'm dead and gone, what's going to happen anyway? So anyway, I stayed in there. I got that. I got out. I went to Bethune-Cookman College and won a scholarship, a football scholarship. Won a scholarship. All right, thought I was all that. My roommate got killed. I went to Florida A&M University. Got cut by Rudy Hubbard. I got cut. Now I'm crushed, right? I'm this all bad player. You know, I can do anything. But I didn't make the team, so I was cut. I was going through on a spiral, winding down, doing some things I shouldn't have been doing. A whole lot of partying, a whole lot of other stuff, and got kicked out of school on academic probation. So I said, oh boy, now I got to find out who I truly am. My dad and them started the newspaper in 1971. I left school in 73. So the family business was going on, but I took it upon myself that I wasn't working for my daddy. I knew more than he did, right? So anyway, went through all them changes, went to Cookman, went to FAMU, got put out on academic probation. I came back home. When I came back home, I enrolled into Florida Memorial University, and I got a degree from there. I made the president's list after all my foolishness. Worked at the paper. Did everything I could to figure or try to make up for all the wrong that I did, because I began to find out who I was. I began to understand that I was not just here for me. I was here for other people. And it took me a while to understand that. Bunch of hits upside the head, hard falls, wondering if I was going to make it to the next day or not. Going through all of these changes. And one day I got on my knees and prayed real hard. And God began to show me, look here, boy, you got a talent. You might not be the football player you want to be. You might not be this, you might not be that. But you can be what I want you to be. And that was a messenger. So from that point on, I became a messenger to tell the truth and to speak it any kind of way I could to get it across to you. If you were falling asleep while others were talking to you, I would find a way to get to you and have a conversation with you, because I'm just like you. Just like you, I am. So until you find yourself and understand your purpose, you are going to go through a lot of stuff. Can I just speak frankly? You're going to go through a lot of shit. All right? And some of it is going to stick on you. But a lot of it is going to fall off. And then you will find out who you truly are. And there's a lot more to this story than what I'm telling you. But I think that's enough to pique your interest. Maybe you'll wake up on this side. We can have a conversation. Two of y'all. Both two of y'all over there. I got you.
So I think for me, the opportunity I see in some of my childhood experience and adulthood experience is that I struggle with belief. I had a brother. My oldest brother, I'm the youngest of 5. So my oldest brother, I watched him go to federal penitentiary, and he's still in there, still to this day. Now I have served 18 years. He ran the streets. Thought that was the way to do it. Second oldest brother didn't learn from my first oldest brother. He thought he had better skills. He ran the streets, and they got him deported back to Haiti. Third oldest brother had one incident and was like, yeah, that ain't for me. Became a truck driver. Fourth oldest brother decided that now I'm the smartest of all y'all. And he was very smart. But found himself doing a 13-year bid, and I had to raise his daughter. So then that left me. And one day my father said, I was 13 years old, I'll never forget it. My father was wearing a V-neck white shirt with some brown pants and his favorite flip-flops, painting the house on a ladder. And I'm holding the bucket of paint. He says, son, you're going to be a failure just like your brother. And for me, I was like, Daddy, how could you say that? Why would you say that? That hurted me to the core. And I remember going in the room crying because my father said these words to me. Now, my father's old school Caribbean. If you know any old school Caribbean, you already know what I mean by that, right? It ain't never good enough for them. Never, until they say it's good. So I said to myself, there's something has to change. And so I told my father while he was on that letter before I went in the room and cried, I said, Dad, I promise you, I'm going to be somebody. And so I got my high school diploma from Pompano Beach High School. Only went 4 days a week. You know, graduated with 3.5 GPA, full ride academia scholarship. My father showed up. Mom was so happy. She took a picture. Daddy like, okay, you ready to go? I'm like, Dad, you ain't going to take a picture with me? No. Why? I did that with your brother, and he ended up in jail. So, went off to college, to Iowa. Cold, freshman year. Now, told you I'm a Caribbean boy from Haiti. I don't know anything about no negative 30-degree weather. Black ice. I don't know anything about that. But I know about a promise I made to my father. So my mother asked the football coach, because I said, since I'm on here on academic scholar, let me play a little football while I'm here. My mother says to me, and the football coach, how long do you think it's going to take? I said, Mom, you can't ask that kind of question. He was like, boy, shut up. How long is it going to take for him to finish? I said, well, it normally takes athletes about 4.5, 5. Nah, my son going to be done in 4. I was done in 3.5. I used my last semester just to take yoga, chill, and do frat parties. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi. I'm going to tell y'all what it is. Hung out with the frat parties, traveled. I enjoyed my senior year. See, while everybody else was partying every Friday and Saturday, I used that time to be in the library. Because one, I knew all the papers was going to be there because everybody was partying. And then two, those would be the same jokers that's going to be paying me to tutor them. Because they was partying on Friday and Saturday. But I had to go. And so from there, I went off. Finished, got my bachelor's degree. And then my father came, took a picture. It was like, okay. No, it still wasn't good. It was average. And so he took a picture. He said, all right, keep going. And I looked at my mom. She was like, son, this is my degree. I said, Mama's happy. Why Daddy ain't happy? But Brother Pettis, it wasn't good enough. So then I go get my master's degree in public administration, business management, and psychology. My mom said, son, how long will it take you to get this master's degree? I said, Mama, this is master's degree. This ain't bachelor's. So don't be trying to put no timeline on me. I said, Mom, but they say about 2 years, 2.5. She said, no, I ain't going for that. I said, you'll be done in a year and a half. I was done in a year and a half. I used my last semester to do what? Party. Because I felt like I worked so hard, this was my way of paying myself. But that wasn't the most proudest moment. The most proudest moment was when I showed up for graduation, I heard my daddy from the rooftop saying, my son Michelange. It was in that moment I knew he tricked me all along. Because he realized that he had to do something different with me that he did with all my other 4 other brothers. And sometimes we forget that people really rooting for us. They just can't always tell you rooting for you because sometimes we use that as a crutch. Well, you're going to be there for me if I need you. You're going to be there if I need you. And sooner or later, they're going to be like, well, I'm tired of being there for you now because you haven't done any work. People invest where the train is moving. People invest where the airplane is going high. People invest where they see other buy-ins from others. So when I lost my father back in 2014, 4 months before I got married, it was the most devastating thing for me. Because none of my brothers had been married. So for me, I always felt like I needed to do, not just for me, but for my brothers as well. I had to carry that torch. Here I am, youngest of 5. So I realized something in that moment. Now, I'm going to be real. I didn't want to get married after I lost my father. Everything was planned. I was like, man, forget this. I don't want to get married. Daddy gone. What am I going to get married for? And my mom did the old, come on, let's go talk in the room. You getting married. Because you just in your feelings right now. But this too will pass. But it hurt me most when I lost my father, when I had my first son, my first child. You know, there's an honor when you sit among a king and you birth a baby boy and you can hand it over to the king. I never got that opportunity. But I know his tradition and his spirit lives on. See, some of us deal with daddy issues and we never really talk about it. Because you want to see your father, you wanted your father to see you achieve certain success. You wanted to see your father be there when you hit your first shot from the three-point line. You want to see your first father to see when you want your father to see when you get that A grade when you come home. Or you want to see him your first rap lyrics, whatever the case may be. Some of us deal with abandonment issues, and we never quite deal with it until it's time. Well, my moment of actually dealing with it is that I actually had to go see a therapist. And I know that's taboo in the black community sometimes. But here I am years later with a clinical director doing mental health service for what community? Black communities. But y'all, I had to go through it myself. And so that's the challenge. So Bobby talked about self. We all have this self challenge that we deal with. But I'll leave you with this. You can conquer that if you deal with it. You gotta deal with it. And don't let it go any further.
So, Mike, before Mr. Pettis, yeah, give it up. All of the gentlemen just mentioned, and you spoke and you shared what I believe is important, and that is vulnerability. Because so often in your position, in your role, people see you in the suit. They see you looking all cleaned up and polished.
Don't let the smooth taste fool you now.
And they don't believe that they're real people with real issues, with real challenges, trying to navigate this thing called life in order to represent and show up. For you, for them, for that name. And so, Brother Pettis, as you are taking the mic and talking about your challenge, can you just reel it back to everyone as you close your piece on that piece of vulnerability and authenticity that is required for each and every one of you as you show up as a black man, as a father, as a CEO, as a leader? I mean, all your respective titles that you carry, how you show up, and the impact that it takes when the world is looking for you, and Kirk mentioned it, to be perfect. When Mr. Pettis talked about he's a pursuit of excellence, that comes with a cost. Can you talk to us about that?
Certainly. you took some of the words out of my mouth when I was going to say what you had heard from the 4 or 5 others was that we're not perfect individuals. None of our lives have been perfect. We've all had obstacles. We've faced obstacles. You're going to face obstacles. If you've already done it, you're going to face some more. That's guaranteed in life. It's guaranteed in life. But it's not facing the obstacle that's the challenge. It's what are you going to do when you face it? I started off, I look over my life. As the older you get, you reflect more over how you got here. I grew up, I was tie-tongue. I had a speech impediment. Who would have thought the little boy who my neighbors would come ask my sister Mila, go get Gene. Because they wanted me to pronounce words, and all my words had if the name was Shirley, her name was Curly. Greg was Quag. Lockie was Cocky. Everything had a K in it. And who would have thought that little boy who had a speech impediment would get paid for being, all I do is talk now as a lawyer. That's my job, I talk. That shows you how I started off with some challenges. But I didn't let the challenges define my destiny. It's very important that you don't crumble when you face the challenge. I don't get scared if I anticipate something. I know it's coming up. I'm prepared for it. I'm a trial lawyer. So when I'm getting ready for trial, I have to think of everything that could possibly happen. And my skill is when it happens, I smoothly address it. I don't freak out over it if I've done my homework. So in life, you have to be prepared to face those challenges that we all face. Talking about our dads and families in general, but in black families in particular. There's a lot of dad issues. I had a wonderful father. He was a provider for the family, but he probably went to 2 basketball games of mine. Did that bother me? Yeah, it did. But I was thankful that my mom drove all over Broward County to be at every game. There's no perfect family setup. No perfect family setup. If we went around this room, I bet we got everything covered. To mom and dad are out of my life, to dad's out of my life, mom's out of my life, somebody has died, this has happened. We all have confronted that. But you got to be thankful for what you have. You have to be thankful for what you have and use that to build. I was thankful for, my dad loved me. He was proud of me. He didn't come around as much as I want to. He wasn't in my school conferences. So what did I take from that? I said, when I get to be a dad, I'm going to make sure I'm present in my daughter's lives. I'll make sure that I do better than what he did. My mom instilled those values in me. Then you get out into the world. As a black male growing up in the United States, you're already stigmatized of not being worthy. You already are working against the odds. That can affect you one or two ways. One, you can let it beat you down. You can stay in bed and just let it beat you down. Or 2, you can use it as energy. I told you earlier, I'm uncompetitive. I'm going to prove to you that I'm better than you. I'm going to prove to you that you can't define me. I'm going to prove that the labels that society places on us are not going to define who I am. And that's what you have to do. Do we have our challenges? Yes. But you got to be able to, the vulnerability of admit where your weaknesses are. But just as any muscles in our body, if you want to get stronger, you work on it. You work on it. And wherever your weaknesses are, work on it. Don't say, well, just because I can't speak, I'm not going to work on it. I'm just going to stutter the rest of my life. My mom put me at that table every night I had to pronounce words. And now people pay to hear me speak. Think about that. Think about that. You have to be prepared. If I had to say where my strengths are I'm a creative person, I'm a visionary, but I want the world to be better. I want the world to be better because I live. If anybody had to get up at the end of my funeral, at my funeral and say something, the one thing I want to have lived the life. I don't want them to say it just because, but I want to have lived the life that the world is better because he lived. That should be all of our goals. I don't care what your background is. I don't care who's with you, who's not. Who's ever in your life, and may not even be in your household. It may be a teacher. It may be Mr. Brown here. Find something that lifts you up. And find something that gives you that belief that I am somebody. We've heard that. But believe it inside. My mom always told me you could be anything you want if you believe. I could hear her telling me that 1,000,000 times over. If you believe. So I have in me an innate belief, whether it's true or not, that I could do anything I want to do. That's how strong my belief is. And if you carry that into any classroom, if you carry that into any conversation, if you carry that post-education into any boardroom, here's what it looks like. First of all, you stand tall. Stand tall with pride. Put your shoulders back. Act like you're somebody. Speak up so people can hear what you have to say. Your voice is your best instrument, most powerful tool. Speak with force. You walk in the room, they should say, who is that man? I had a man once, I was at a big gathering in Palm Beach, 500 people in the audience. This man walked over to me, a white gentleman, said, I need to know you. The way you walk around this room, I need to know who you are. That's how I carried myself. You carry yourself with pride. I don't care who you are. I used to have an afro. I don't have any hair anymore. I don't have any hair anymore. But it went away and I just went ahead and cut it on off. But however, whatever you have, man, it's how you carry yourself with pride. Have some pride in who you are. Walk with that pride. Walk with that confidence. And there's nothing like a confident person. I pick people to be on my team that are confident. I don't want anybody coming on my team. Well, I don't know. I think I can do the job. Hell, why am I going to invest in you? And that's the way you come in. I want you to come in strong. Come in strong, believing that you can do it. And if you do that, I don't care what baggage you have, all of us got some baggage. All of us got some baggage. I could talk about stuff that happened to me going through school, getting in trouble, and racism rearing its head in my life. But I didn't let that define me. I let it be a boost to go higher. I let it be there's nothing that'll defeat a racist than for you to continue to succeed. If you continue to succeed, that's the best response. You don't have to go beat them up.
Why not, man?
You don't have to go beat them up. You can just address it. I'm not saying be weak on it, but address it. But you succeed, because then that gets them in their place and gets you where you belong. Every single one of us in this room, everybody, I'm a man of God. I believe there's a purpose on each and every one of our lives. The question is, are you going to listen to the voice? Are you going to listen to what God's telling you to become? And it ain't going to be served on a platter for you. You got to work your tail off. But I'll tell you, what you build today will be the foundation you stand on for the rest of your life. You can build a flimsy foundation, and guess what happens to flimsy foundations? The buildings crumble. Your life will crumble. Or you can dedicate true effort and build a strong foundation, and the possibilities are endless. You could today want to be one thing, the foundation will support you, and change your mind and go in a different direction. The foundation you've built will support you. Invest in a sound foundation. It ain't easy, but it'll serve you all of your life. And if the foundation is built strongly, the winds of racism, family issues, community issues that blow in our lives, the challenges that we have, of being human on this earth will withstand those confrontations, and you can still advance your agenda. I'm just a strong believer, and I spent all my life with my daughters. To this day, I communicate with them, telling them that they are special. I want them to believe they're special. And I want you all to believe that you're special, because people told me that I could do it if I believed that I was special. Not better than anybody else, but special in my own right. Irrespective of what dad, what mom, what the neighborhood, what the white man, the black man, whoever think of you, if you believe it and you're willing to give the time to achieve it, there ain't nothing that you can't do. You got to be a realist now. I was going to be the next Michael Jordan. Okay? I had to get real. At Stranahan High School, I got some scholarships, but they were really small schools, way out of where I wanted to be, and I got real. That wasn't my calling. That wasn't the way I was gonna do it. So I knew that academics was going to be what I wanted to do, and it served me well. So get real with what you're assessing in your life, so you'll build the foundation that you want to build for that dream. But if I had time to talk to each of y'all individually, you got to have a dream. Waking up in the morning aimlessly, not knowing what you want. And you talked about how you need to know who you are. And I would add where you're going, where you want to go. You got to have some idea. There's always a possibility of amending it, but have some goal of where you want to go in your life. And let that be your guide. If I did it, and I tell people, a lady complimented me on my shoes today. I was getting some treatment, and she said, "Oh, I love those shoes." You know, people compliment me on my suit. But the boy inside was the boy who grew up right over here. I carry myself differently. I have a pride about myself. I feel that I'm a king. Not a king in superior, but a king within my own being. So I carry myself that way.
Mr. Eugene, I have to go right there where you are, because I think everyone needs to speak to that. When we talk about and we look at our black men, you talk about the king. You talk about squaring your shoulders. You talk about representation. And you talk about, Mr. Brown, you talked about knowing who you are, right? When we look out in our community and we are looking at our men, the question is, where are the men to help this group, all those who are out there listening, who are doing what you just said, standing up, showing the example, serving and pouring out? My question to each one of you, and I just need one word: what is the one action that you take as a leader in your role to show up, not just for yourself, but for your community? What's your one word action, Mr. Brown?
Eugene, she gave me one word. You gotta see him.
Build on that. You got to see what?
You know, Kenwan's sitting right there. Right. You have to. I think we're in a social economy where people look through people like they're not even there. You have to see them. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see Ricardo Campbell right there. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see Kevin Love over here. You have to see him, and what that means is you got to look in their eyes and know that there's greatness there. You just can't see them average. You got to see them as greatness. Makito is going to be great. This young man is great. Takari is great. But you have to see him, because you seeing them allows them to see them too. That's my best frame for it. You have to see him. And that's what I do every day. I see him.
What's your one word, sir?
So mine is similar, I guess, but it's accessibility. And again, coming from my own experience, when I was growing up, my mother introduced me to every family that she could connect with. I would spend, after church, I would go with the minister's family. And, you know, my family was of very, very, very modest means. The minister's family was doing a little better. She connected me with, we had a gentleman in the community. He was an insurance salesman, businessman. You know, I've spent time with his family, with his kids. I got to see different people and got to see that they were all in a way just like just like the people I knew. I saw people at different economic points. I was my mother put me in literally every type of program that she could. Back then it was Upward Bound, there was DECA, there was other academic programs. She put me in every program I could. She introduced me to every avocation. I didn't follow it, but I had piano lessons. I took swimming classes. And so through all of that, I met different people, made my circle a lot larger, and had a cross-section of people that later on I could call on who had expertise in different areas. And so she made my circle as broad as possible and made the people I had access to as broad as possible.
So we heard that we got to see them. We heard accessibility. And I just want to add to your accessibility, I hear exposure, right? So often that we are limiting, or we limit ourselves and we think other people are limiting us, but we're limiting ourselves. But I hear exposure, and what exposure and an awareness to opportunity and diversity and expanding your environment can do for you. So, Mr. Henry, what's your word?
Truth to thyself be true. No matter what you're confronted with, you got to be true to you. Now, Gene here, this is the God heaven truth. The person he talked about when he said Lockie is from his neighborhood, and he had a problem trying to say her name. Not only that, he's one of the best attorneys that I've seen. I saw him fight against the city of Fort Lauderdale and some racist police officers. And everything he said about being prepared, this man sat at that table, and everything that they brought to him, he was able to diffuse it and go right down because he had prepared himself. He was true to himself. And you have to be true to who you are. You can't be nobody else, no matter what it is. You know, some of y'all like to say be for real, you know, and not being real stupid, but just be truthful to yourself. If you can't do it, and you know you can't do it, you find a way to get it done. If you can't do it, surround yourself with people who can. If you don't know who you are, if you're not being true to yourself, you're going to be fake and phony for the rest of your life. When you look in the mirror, you're not going to know who you are because you've been phony all your life. So if I can say one thing to you, be true to the game. Be true to who you are. Don't let nobody sell you short. You are who you are because God made you that way. And he can prepare you for anything that you will become confronted with. But you can't go at it lying. You can't have something out here in your hand say you ain't got nothing behind your back hiding something. You got to be for real. That's the only way you're going to make it. If you come any other way, it's not going to work, period. I don't give a doggone how much money you're dealing with, how much time you do what you do. It ain't going to matter. If Gene wasn't true to himself, he couldn't sit here and tell you nothing about what he went through. If Michael Bell, Lil Bull, if he was sitting here BSing, being stupid, he couldn't tell you anything. Weeks couldn't tell you anything. Brown couldn't tell you anything. The first thing I bet you that they did before they came here but look in the mirror or look at themselves and say, who am I? Am I going to impart BS with these people, or am I going to be truthful? They've been through enough in your life. So when you find truth, hold on to it. Man, you look like Chris Stokes. That's why I keep looking at you with the hat on. You look like one of the players that I coach, Christopher Stokes. You look just like him. So you have to be true to the game. Be true to yourself. That's it. That's it.
Mike, you don't follow that, Mike.
Mike, what's your word?
You one word, Mike.
Will. I would say will. You got to have the God-given will to go out there and be great. You got to have will. You know, I'll share this with you. I remember the first time when I started a nonprofit, Team Saving Our Youth, before we merged with Community-Based Connection. There was a moment where I would try to go to a bank and get a line of credit as a business owner. Now here it is, me and a good friend of mine who don't look like me, who's white. He goes in with jeans and a T-shirt, and he gets a line of credit.
You come in with a three-piece suit, you can't get nothing.
Now ask me, how do Bobby know that? Now ask me, how do he know that? But that was my situation. I went in with a three-piece suit.
And a bow tie.
Three-piece suit. I ain't have a bow tie at the thrift store. at a thrift store. But I had a, right, I upgraded, right? But seriously, I went in with a three-piece suit. Say, hey, here's my financial. Now, I knew my credit score was better than his. But they wouldn't give me an opportunity. And so I had to have the will. I had to increase the business, increase the profit margin, and then go in and say, hey, now talk to me. And even then, they wasn't fair. But I took what they gave me because I needed to start somewhere. See, everybody think you just arrived. But everybody forget that you had to have a will to be great. Will to be a stew. Will to not give up. The will to wipe them tears away and keep on pressing on. Because I'm going to tell you, any one of us up here can tell you, we don't have some moment when we put our head down and say, man, I don't...
Hey, Mike, man, you're going into the place where all these people look at you in the suit and they don't believe that these men up here function with real emotion,
Right.
are real people living real life situations.
Because here's the thing, Arlene. Sometimes it's your own people who do it to you.
Well,
Sometimes it's your own people who do it to you. And then there's times it's those other people who do it to you with their policies and procedures and everything else. See, they fight by rules. See, you want to fight by fists.
They bring Gene in with you.
They bring paper and ink together and do red lines and everything else. So while I'm up here talking about the will, you got to know that sometimes you're gonna lose that day. But you can win if you have the will before the week is out. Because I can tell you, many times I have called Kurt, call Arlene, call Bobby, and call Rich, and say, man, you know what this mother... and in that moment, I got to go back in my office with people who depend on me because they got to feed their families. And say, I can't be that two-something level thrower. I can't go to war like that. I got to be strategic. You got to be strategic. But in order to be strategic, you got to have a will to fight. And so I just leave you with that.
So you just touched on something before, Gene, and you can add it, and Kirk is going to build on it. What you talked about, you have to be strategic, because it's a different type of war, right?
Absolutely.
And so your strategies have to be different. So as black male leaders, the strategies that you have to utilize in order to navigate and try to win for your community and win for the causes that you're passionate about. If y'all could just glean in on that, Gene and then Kurt.
Certainly. And for the one word, I was going to say determination, but a different perspective than Brother Bell. Our society is based on magazines, entertainment things on TV, with all these artificial impressions they show us. And we come to believe that they got everything together and we don't have a chance. Well, it's a lie. It's a lie. When you look at the success of anybody, you can, Bezos, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all of those people have had failures in their lives. We see them at the end. We see them with the one thing that worked. And we get discouraged because of the fact that the media makes us think those guys woke up and hit a home run. Well, no, they struck out a lot of times. Don't get deterred because you strike out. There's another round of at-bats. You're going to get another chance. So I want you to know determination. But to the point that you just, the point that you just raised, it's critical. It's critical that you prepare yourself. It's you know society is going to look down on you. You know they're going to think you're less than even. You walk in with, you're an African-American person of color, and there's a white guy. Guess who they think is the leader? They think the white guy is leading. That's just our society. Even though you're the senior person, you could be the business owner. Their brains have been conditioned in many instances, and I'm generalizing, but so many of our fellow white brothers and sisters have been taught all their lives that one's superior to the other. I've seen it. One of the things that hurt me the most was when my daughter, who's a lawyer, was in court and had a bailiff to say, "Why are you in this line?" She said, "I'm getting an order from the judge." "You're a lawyer?" "Yes, I am." "Show me your bar card. You don't look like a lawyer." Now, how does that feel in 2007 or 9? I've bust my butt for the profession, and women are still going through that. Males are still going through that. So what do? You have to prepare accordingly. You can't be falling into the stereotype that you're going to be late, that you're going to have your application half done, grammatical mistakes all over it. You got to be above and beyond reproach. You got to have every I dotted and every T crossed, above and beyond. So you eliminate the stereotypical things that they're talking about. Because even if you got it all done, you're going to face challenges, as you just heard from the previous speakers. But I think what we need to do is make sure that you're ready for the fight. How do you get ready for the fight? You prepare yourself. You put your, whatever the application is, whatever the challenge is of your life, you got to go through it. And you know, the old saying is you got to be better, multiple times better than they are. It's true. It's true. It's unfortunate. I think society is unfortunate, but you got to be prepared. I'll pass it over to Brother Brown.
Okay, so Brother Gene, so I have to say this. It's exhausting. I'll be the first one to say it. I put a suit on in the morning before I put a suit on.
Say that again.
I put a suit on in the morning before I put a suit on. See how quick I hear Bobby's nerve on that one? Because it's exhausting, right? And this is the room where we keep it real with our young people. Mentally, I put a suit on every morning before I put my suit on. And I tell our young people here, and I tell my staff here every day, the person who thinks first wins first. So for God's sakes, start learning how to think. Stop being emotional. It is going to be exhausting, and it is exhausting. But if you're thinking, you're winning. If you're not thinking, you're losing. There is no gray space. There is no TikTok video for it. There is no celebrityism in it. There's not commercialized. Eugene, I remember when the T182 calculator came out, right? These young people don't know about it, but I remember being in my class and the professor said, this kid was like, why can't I use my calculator? He was like, if I let you use it, you'll never understand Pythagoras' theorem. And back then at Ely High School, I was like, he's right. If you don't have to think about it, you won't use it. If you don't use your brain cells, you lose them. We use our emotions real well. Go on Google right now and just Google funny memes about organizational problems. You get like millions of videos. Google solutions for organizational problems. Get small videos. You want to know why? Because people who don't think are used to finding problems. People who think find solutions. Right? People who think find solutions and get paid for solutions. You are hired for answers, not questions. I'm going to keep it real with you. You're hired for answers, not questions. So start thinking about the answers. Start thinking about how you're going to be the answer. We understand what that means. I want you to understand what that means. Take 30 minutes every day and think about something. Think about solving something. Get your brain conditioned to thinking about solutions. I guarantee right now, if I ask you to tell me a problem in your life, you have about 96 of them. I ask you for a solution. You got to sit for a minute, right? How many of y'all get paid for solutions sitting right here?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
How many of you hire people for solutions?
Every day.
That's why it's not exhausting to me after my 30 minutes of putting on my mental suit.
But Kurt, I mean, we can even go a step further, right? Because you have the mental suit, but here's a part where folks miss out on. Collectively working together.
We're going there.
Listen,
Go there.
you can't
Now he's standing up.
get it no other way.
He's going to do a Q-Dog step in the middle.
You can't get it no other way. If you do not work collectively together, you'll be treading water. Meaning, there's times I'm calling Kurt and saying, hey, I got an idea. Or he's saying, hey, I got an idea. We need to put ourselves together. Right? This time I got to call Bob and say, hey, listen, I'm doing something great. Tell me what the fee is, and I'm going to put it in the newspaper because I need exposure for what I do. Because I got to raise money as a nonprofit leader. So every time, the more exposure I get, sad to say, the more money I'm raising. And guess what? Normal, predominantly white parents don't want to cover a small black organization like mine. Because I don't have FPL sitting on my board. I don't have J-Mark's owner sitting on my board. I don't have that. So I got to work collectively with others and get the exposure. And guess what? I don't have big-time attorneys who can go out and do litigation when someone is doing me wrong on a contract. So I got to call somebody like Gene Petty and be like, hey, this is what I'm working with. If you can't do it, point me in the right direction when someone can. You got to work together. The problem what we have done over the years is stop working together.
Amen. Amen.
Because you feel like you all you got. Not realizing we all we got. Because if my son go down tomorrow and you can't help him, it's part of the problem. I should be in a position where if something happens to you, I can say, bro, come over here and work with me. But we got away from that kind of stuff. Marcus Garvey had it right. He knew the we work together, the further we can go. Think about this. Garvey sold newspapers. It was known all over the world at a time where ain't no way a Jamaican cat like him should have been popular. Because he was doing some unorthodox things that people, even black elites, couldn't agree with. They're like, oh, we can't get close to that Negro. That W.E. Du Bois like had to work with the government to get rid of him. That crab in the bucket mentality got to go. Because see, we sitting up here today, the five of us. I'm sure we can call on each other to do anything. It has. But here's what they're not telling you. That you can work together. You don't got to do it by yourself. 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 You can do it together, and there's enough money out there for all of us to eat. There's enough resources out there for all of us to go out and grab. But for so long you've been taught you don't need nobody to do it. They lie to you. They sell you a hope, and they keep the dream. Don't tell me heaven ain't out here. Heaven is. I don't got to die to go reach heaven. Heaven is right here on earth. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I see people live it every day. Not even about the big men, but being able to travel with their family for months out. Being able to be among their friends and do all these business deals while you and your friend looking at each other like crab in the bucket. Bruh, you don't have to do it by yourself. Sis, you don't have to do it by yourself. And we need to stop pitting brothers and black sisters up against each other.
Mike, how do we do that? Because the challenge is
Well, I ain't sorry, but I just
the
I ain't sorry, but
the challenge
reality
is
out here.
we can't be sorry when we speak truth. The challenge is that we have forgotten what collaboration looks like, and the trust has been eroded, or the trust in many cases have been broken. And so when you as a young person took a minute to trust somebody and they broke your confidence, broke your trust, that shifted a little bit of your desire to say, I'm going to reach again and seek for someone to help me, right? But you got to still push, because you may have had one door closed. When he said that we don't see all the failures, we don't see how many times it takes for you to trust and for you to try and for you to connect with someone else, right? Because the fallacy is that if you keep us from working together, it's divide and conquer. We are stronger together, right? And so how do we get all the men here, right, and all of you, how do we build a fortress, a network, a partnership, a collaborative, where we are working and we're going in the same direction? We may have different initiatives, but we are moving in a direction. How do we do that, team?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and I agree 1,000% with Brother Bell, what he just said. I was called by Harold Pryor, our state attorney, probably in December, saying it's December, January. Someone had asked him to put on a reception for the black elected officials. I said, Harold, I don't have time to go pat people on the back before they've done the job. I said, if we want to get together and talk about strategy, I'm all for that. But I'm not sitting here to just celebrate something that they haven't even done anything yet. So I said, if we want to talk strategy and put together a think tank and work together, let's come up with 3 areas. And this is just an example of what he was just saying. Let's come up with some common things that we should all be signing on to. Education of our black kids. Number 2, affordable housing. Get rid of the healthcare disparity. Let's start with those 3. That touches every single community that anybody who's elected in the state of Florida should buy on to. Mm-hmm. You would think those are 3 things we should be able to coalesce around. Mm-hmm. What did we talk about? Well, somebody told me you said something about me. we can't be petty and on that type of stuff. The meeting got totally sidetracked because of pettiness. The same is true for you all as young folks. Somebody's not going to act the way you want them to act. Somebody's not going to answer your call. But that doesn't mean that you can't try to advance anyway and call on them again. I have been around enough white folks in my life at every level. A lot of my best friends are white. Those boys and ladies will be on the opposite side of a deal one day. One of them's going to lose out, but guess what's going to happen in the morning? They're going to be back friends, ready to cut another deal with each other. What do? If you're on the other side of the deal against me, you're my enemy. And I ain't never going to forget you for being on the other side. That's the difference in our mentality. And guess what they do? I've been in the room with these deals where they fight against each other, and the next deal they're hugging each other. And that's the way we need to learn how to move in all of our, every time you're not going to have the same support system. Somebody's going to be against you that you thought was your friend. Tell them, hey man, hope the next time we can do the deal together. I hope the next time I can call upon your support. But don't let it defeat you. And the crab mentality is something in our control. We're sitting here looking at what Governor DeSantis is doing. You know my response to it is? We shouldn't be counting on the state to educate our kids about black history anyway. We should be teaching our kids about black history. When you rely on them to teach you black history, guess what? They manipulate it. They pull pages out. That's a shame on us that we leaning on the system to teach it. That's something we need to teach in church. That's what we taught in our own schools. That's what we taught at home.
For me to segue into this, what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'm a publisher of a newspaper, a black newspaper. Now, the black press has been around for 196 years this month. You tell me one other black business that has been around for 196 years. Tell me. We have, because it's our job to tell our story, to write our narrative, not to be dependent upon some other entity to do that, to educate us, to read our history in the pages of a black newspaper. If I had the opportunity, I could show each one of you young men in here where you've been, where you're going, and how you need to get to where you want to be from a black newspaper. Now, I'm also going to say this. I disagree with the crab mentality. So much so that if you've ever been crabbing, right? If you ever seen crabs in the bucket, you pull one up, the other one are grabbing so they can make a bridge to get themselves out. Not to pull each other down, they create a bridge. Another thing I'm gonna tell you, if you're in a situation, you're in a deep dark hole, just say, racism is beating your behind down, right? And you in this hole, you in this pity party. Think about this donkey. It was an old donkey that the farmer said he ain't no good, so we might as well kill him. So they threw the donkey in a well, a deep well, and they wanted to cover the donkey up. So they threw shovels of dirt on him, just kept throwing dirt on him. All of a sudden, when the dirt hit the donkey on the back, he just shook it off. And they kept doing it. He just shook it off, took one step up. They threw some more dirt down on him. He just shook it off, took another step up. And before you know it, the donkey walked this behind out of the hole he was in. So when they put dirt on you, use it for a stepping tool to step your way out of it. Don't be hooked up on the bull crap. Don't listen to that particular history. Know your history. Know where you come from. Know who you are. But what's more important, know whose you are. All right? You ain't just here for yourselves. You're here for somebody else. The crab. How many of y'all have been crabbing? Okay. Those two of us have been crabbing. When you got them crabs in the bucket and you hold one, what happened? The other one reach up and grab it. Try to create a bridge to get out of that hole he's in. If you listen to it, I'm not saying this to Gene or to Michael Bell, but if you listen to that white story about Negroes being a crab in a bucket, you're going to be fooled every time. Because all you're going to do is try to pull yourself down. But if you look at it as a bridge to get yourself out of a situation, you'll be pulling each other up. No man should stoop so low unless he's lifting down to pick somebody up. And that goes for all of us. Don't be fooled by the crowd. Know your history. Know who you are. And that's where I come in. That's what I do. If you see something, say something, write it down so you have your history. I was able to tell a story about Gene. I was able to tell a story about Mike and Howard. I don't know about you yet, Mr. Brown. But we were fortunate enough to be able to tell, look at that, boy, let there be light. We were fortunate enough to be involved. If you got, okay, I'm going to get political right now just for 1 second. We had a school superintendent that wasn't doing the right thing. She was fired 3 times. On the 4th time, they really got rid of her. Well, we helped in doing that by telling the true story about what was transpiring with Broward County school system. That's one of the proudest moments of my life as a journalist, as a reporter, to be able to say that we helped create a positive situation from a negative situation by telling the truth. And that's all we can do is to tell the truth. All right? I'm gonna sit down now. I should have been going on.
So we have one last question, and then we're gonna leave. We have a guest of honor here. His name is Richard Charlemagne, and he wants to ask a question. So, Mr. Charlemagne.
I'm just happy that I'm not the only one that got kicked out of school but I walked into Handy and got a job from my future mentor, Kirkland Brown. And watching him operate made me realize my purpose, right? And then when we started to work together, 200 kids later, in 4-year colleges, gang members, troublemakers, or whatever they were, I realized that we maybe less of the don't do this and don't do that, and focus more on the realizing your purpose here on earth, which resulted in a lot of our young men and women doing great things. It's a guy that's wearing green over there. He was the most troubled kid. Now he works for Moss Construction, doing big things. He's an example of the over 200 kids that Kirk and I helped get to college and do success. Tell me and tell these young cats about purpose.
Woo. Purpose. Now we all got 30 seconds. We all got 30 seconds.
Real quick, purpose translates into having a dream and a vision for your life. And if you've got that central dream, that vision for what you want to accomplish in life, that will impact on everything else you do. And real quickly, so what you'll then do is you'll realize you can't do it all. When I talk about going to school, and I went to school, I never had a checkbook, didn't know how to write a check. I went to school, I was with some brothers that had families that had run businesses. I made a choice consciously to be around those guys, to study with those guys, to catch up, because I knew that that was the direction I needed to go in. So have a dream, have a vision, and that will be your purpose.
Eugene?
I think, purpose, you have to be intentional. You have to be serious about what you're pursuing. You can't half do it. You're not going to get anywhere in life. None of us are going to get anywhere in life without committing 110%. So purpose, whatever that purpose is in your life, and it may require meditation, prayer, conversations with people, studying. You got all these cell phones, study something positive. Look up different things and understand that where you start may not be where you end up. There may be another calling upon your life. Listen to the voice, listen to the spirit within you to pursue that purpose. But it has to be with intentionality, focus, and commitment.
Mike?
You have to live in purpose. Without purpose, you're lost. That's really what it boils down to. Your purpose is a blueprint. It's a map. It tells you where you're going. And it's giving you that mission. each step of the way. So that's what I'll say.
Purpose. There was a book written by Rick Warren called Purpose Driven Life. Now, some of us go through life aimlessly, not recognizing what our purpose is. We don't even know what purpose means. So how is it, if you don't know what something means, how can you understand it to try to follow it? We are speaking from experience. Some of y'all haven't had the experience. You haven't realized what your purpose is. You don't know. So when you don't know, you wind up doing a whole lot of things until you find out what your purpose is. But don't be defeated in trying to discover what it is. Because if you're defeated before you find out what it is, you will never achieve your purpose.
Wow. I gotta follow that. Well, purpose is your greatest self. Imagine if you are in charge of creating the greatest thing that ever existed in this world. Because you are. You're in charge of that. Nobody else is. So for me, purpose is actualizing your greatest self. Not your average one, your greatest self. Something the world has never seen is you at your greatest self. And you get to do that, nobody else.
Well, as we close, in order for that purpose to be realized, and I hope you heard it in so many of the words that have been echoed by each of our panel members, is that you have to recognize who you are, that you are a person of immense value. Because if I don't value myself, it is very difficult for me to square my shoulders, walk into the room, have voice, say that I have purpose, operate with a sense of integrity, pursue my vision or goal, have the will to overcome even when people try to knock me down. There has to be something in you where it rises up and you recognize that I am a person of great value. Because I am here on the planet, it means that there is something that is uniquely possible that's to come out of my existence. And that's what I've seen and heard each one of these gentlemen share in this conversation. They represent it on a daily basis as they operate in their respective roles. They demonstrate purpose, will, integrity, excellence, and they recognize the history and the backbone and the legacy of those who came before them that have allowed them to be. And so when you are looking out for that hero, for that influence, for that individual who can help give you exposure, right, and opportunity, you have to build linkages with individuals of substance because they're all around you. Individuals who have substance are all around you. And many times, they're just waiting. I bet you if one of these gentlemen here would tell you, they are sometimes waiting for that individual who will show the eagerness and the desire and the want to know how they did it, to sit at their feet, stand next to them in a boardroom, in a courtroom, and whatever, so that they can glean and learn. What is needed is you and your willingness, your desire to want it. Each and every man up here, they wanted it, and you heard them say it, that they wanted to do better. Mike wanted to prove his father wrong. Eugene wanted excellence, right? Bobby wanted to figure out who he was, right? Aaron had a mom who helped him have exposure. And Kirk was just always relentless in the face of opportunity to say, when anybody said I can't, watch me do it. And so when we're talking about black excellence, black leadership, and black males with purpose-driven power, you have just had the opportunity to hear the voices of Eugene Pettis, Mr. Michael Bell, Mr. Bobby Henry, Mr. Aaron Weeks, and Mr. Kirk Brown. And now you are charged with carrying the torch and the light to realize your purpose, because you have the power within you. I am Arlene Connolly Drummond, and tonight we have lit a flame. We have put on a spark, and now each of us are going to connect with you to ensure that purpose-driven power is growing in Broward County, in South Florida, and we all are leaving a mark. And we're not leaving anyone behind, because as Bobby just said, we're pulling each other up. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I know our young people got to get out of here. Your drivers are here. It's almost 8 o'clock. Alumni, everyone else, please stay back. We could have a conversation. For our panelists, gentlemen, Eugene, as a kid from Kinder Green, I just want y'all to know, I feel like I'm sitting among royalty right now, right? For those who don't know, that's Pompano. I feel like I'm sitting among royalty, gentlemen. All I did was pick up the phone, called, you answered. Let's continue to teach the world how we do that. Thank you for being here. Thank you.